Call the meeting in order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see, I hereby call to order the February 19th public hearing of the City of Prescott Board of Adjustment. Board members present are Dick Rosa, Mike First, James D'Arienzo, Phil King, George Wyant. My name's Michael Klein. Planning members present, we've got George Worley, Frank Hall, welcome.
Thank
you. See who else with us? Councilman Lamerson and Councilman Lozelle, welcome as well. And I keep forgetting Suzanne Derryberry. This is an open public hearing that is being tape recorded and videotaped by the city. Proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, the public, local cable and or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast. The number of board members present is, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will require 4 votes for a majority. All parties wishing to be heard on an issue are required to raise their hand and be recognized by the chairman prior to speaking. Speakers will be expected to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off all cell phones or electronic devices if you haven't already done so. Please sign the attendance roster before leaving the meeting so that we may contact you if necessary. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our July 17th meeting. We're meeting biannually.
I so approve. I approve.
Second. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Okay, next item on the agenda is variance 15-001, 132 North Montezuma Street. Mr. Hall, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Frank Hall with Community Planning for the City of Prescott. Today we're here to talk about, as you said, sir, the variance 15001, which is a variance for a single-family residence in the downtown business district on East Willis, on North Montezuma, between Gurley Street and East Willis Street, about mid-block. The applicant, Mr. Fan, is asking for a variance of the setbacks for residential construction to make them the setbacks for non-residential construction, commonly referred to as the commercial setbacks. The setbacks for residential use would be 7 feet on the sides and, 35 feet for a height and a lot coverage of 40%. Mr. Fan is requesting that he be allowed to build his house according to the commercial setback standards instead of the residential setback standards. He is still proposing the front setback of the facade of the house to be about 15 feet from the front lot line, so it won't be completely up on the front like other commercial buildings. In the rear of the property, in this location here, Mr. Fan is proposing a concrete wall, so to speak, for a parking area where he will have his, I assume, his trash receptacles and his parking, so he won't need any on-street parking needs for his residential use. This is a general layout of the site plan. The shadowed area is the proposed structure. The front little courtyard is this space right here between the sidewalk and the front facade. And the dotted line, if you can barely see on the screen back here, is the courtyard for the parking his vehicles. This is a general representation of what Mr. Fan is proposing to construct. I don't think it's finalized. I think they're still working with design, but generally this is the initial concepts. Mr. Fan's architect is here, and they're here to answer any questions regarding the building design. Planning staff believes that the variance criteria and the land development code are met with this application. You saw these comments in the staff report. I don't know if I need to go over them with you. And I'd rather have more time with the applicant to present. If you have any questions for me or Mr. Worley or the applicant, we're certainly here to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for staff? No? I'd invite the applicant, or Mike, would you like to come up?
Hi, Michael Taylor, 544 Wetstein, Prescott. Mr. Fan purchased this property recently with the purposes of building his single-family home. He is, as you all know, heavily ingrained in this community, loves this community, and as such really wants to be entwined in it. So he wants his home to be downtown. He's hoping through this to build a structure that will last for generations and will fit with the downtown district, with the history that we all know and love downtown. So in order to do that, we'd like to construct a structure that fits with the other commercial structures in downtown Prescott. The DTB, Downtown Business Zoning District, has a delineation between, as Mr. Hall mentioned, between the residential and commercial structures. So we feel that building this structure to the commercial standards will keep in the theme of the downtown. We did go to Preservation Commission as an informal review also, and got thumbs up. Of course, it's an informal review. As Mr. Hall mentioned, this rendering represents our current thinking on the structure and the aesthetics. We expect that it will look somewhat like this, but certainly we still have a lot of design work yet to do. I guess I would open it up to any questions that you might have about the project that I can answer.
Okay, are there any questions for the applicant? I have a couple of questions. It appears that on one side there's actually a setback where you've got some windows.
That's correct.
What is the setback there?
The south side of the home, we are anticipating, Mr. Hall's putting up the site plan there. On the south side, we are still anticipating staying 5 feet for the base foundation off of that property line. The purpose of that is to provide an interior access from the front yard to the rear yard for Mr. Fan to be able to access both without going on neighboring properties or having to go through the home. Now, as you rise above that level, if you'll go back to the rendered elevation, there is the hint of, about in the middle of the wall there on the left, of a projection that sticks out that would gain us some additional square footage up above that would go out closer to that property line. But the overall building is set back 5 feet from that south property line.
And what would be the effect if somebody came in and bought what is now the parking lot there and built some type of a structure?
The effect, we are building to the standards as though there is a structure there, and that is also part of the 5-foot setback that allows us windows on that south side. The projection, as I mentioned there, would have no windows because it would go closer than 5 feet to that property line. So somebody could conceivably build right on that property line, and it has no effect on our structure whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
How many parking places are behind?
The current plan is that we would actually have a private residential garage in the back of the structure, and it is a 2-car stacked up against 2 cars, so it's a total of 4 cars enclosed, and then our auto court, as we're calling it, in the rear is about 50 feet deep. So there's ample space for turning around and parking 2 or 4 more cars in the back, all contained within this property.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else like to add anything? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I failed to mention, I'm sorry, we're addressing me. I failed to mention that the Historic Preservation Commission did talk about this as a courtesy review. Ms. Kat Moody presented. They reached, I believe, a majority or a unanimous consensus of support for the project.
One other question. As far as lot coverage, the residential standard is 40%?
Correct.
And what would you have as far as lot coverage?
Currently, I think we're looking at 65% lot coverage. The commercial standards allow 100% coverage.
Right.
So, with the auto court in the rear and being able to turn vehicles around and a little bit of front yard, we don't anticipate going anywhere near that 100%.
Okay, great, thank you. I would invite anyone from the public if you'd like to have any comments. Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Rob Petrich. I live at 120 South Horizon Circle, Prescott, and I'm one of the owners of the building directly behind this property, across the alley. And I've studied the application, and I think I've become very familiar with it, and I think it's a good plan. And when you work downtown and own property downtown, you're very interested in downtown succeeding and continuing to be vibrant. We're one of those few county seats in Arizona that has a vibrant downtown, not just during the day, but at night. My first choice would to see more businesses downtown that bring people downtown during the day and at night. But this lot is really too small for businesses. It would not allow sufficient parking. So what's the best use of this particular lot? And it just seems to me this is a good fit. I was very pleased to see that the owner is Mike Pham, because I think we know Mike does a good job on any project. Then I inquired further and tried to find out who the architect was, and when I found out it was Michael Taylor, I was more encouraged that this was going to be a property that was well designed. My questions are, not only how is this building going to look from the front, but how is it going to look from the back of the building and more on the side of the building? Is there going to be sufficient parking, and is there going to be sufficient location for trash pickup? The previous owner of this property never really had trash pickup. They just used our dumpster. And I'd come to work on Monday and find it full. And so those things need to be considered. The way downtown works, the alleys are almost streets. A lot of people use the alleys for pedestrian access. A lot of people use the alleys instead of the streets to get where they want to go. So it's important that the back of the building look nice, but also have a safe exit onto the alley. Overall, I think it's a good use of this particular lot. It takes the infill concept and does a good job with it. We've got a number of other lots downtown that they're too small really for business use. Projects like this might be an inspiration as to how to use those lots instead of just have empty dirt lots with trees and weeds growing unattended. So those are my comments. I would like to see more of the design of the back of the building and the side of the building, but I think it's a wonderful project for this particular property.
Great, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Call for a motion?
Somebody.
Well, then I'll make a motion. I move that we approve variance 15-001, 132 North Montezuma Street as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion, questions?
This kind of redevelopment downtown has been city policy for 20 years plus, and this kind of thing we should be encouraging.
I agree. It's a quality project. All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. It's approved. Next item on the agenda is review items, if we've got any.
I don't, sir.
Okay, summary of current and recent events. We're adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, next month. My coffee's gonna